Do I say that this car is cheaper than my phone? Alright, welcome back to the channel. Now, I know it's a bit of a different location, but today I've got a bit of a different video for you lot. In this video, we're going to be going through my best ever investment, my £500 car. So, what do you think? Does the job? Not bad for 500 quid. Alright, in this video, I'm going to be going through the reason behind why this car is the best investment I've ever made. Before I talk about when I bought the car, I better go through the backstory leading up to it. So it was a rainy Saturday morning, about 8 o'clock, and I was rushing late for work. Long story short, my car came off the road and I ended up in a ditch. Luckily I was fine, I just had a bit of bruises on my shins. However, the car was a complete write-off. So for a period of time, I was having to get lifts in from work. I could hardly work whatsoever as I didn't have my own wheels. Bear in mind, where I do currently work, it's 15 miles door to door. So I had to rely on the mum to help me out on that one. I was very desperate for a car and I didn't have much money at the time. I managed to get back most of the money that I got from my old car through my insurance company. However, it still wasn't that much considering my other car, I got about £2,000 back for it. Anyways, I looked around for cars around the £2,000 to £3,000 mark because that's roughly what I got back from my car accident. However, I feel like it was still too much. I was paying out quite a lot just to commute to work and back. Bear in mind at this point, this is June of last year, again, the middle of pandemic. The only reason that I really need my car is potentially see my mates, a girlfriend. But at this point it was pretty much for work. You still couldn't really meet up with people outside of your house. Anyways, I found this car off someone that I knew with an offer of £500. And I thought a 1.2 with 83,000 on the clock wasn't bad for 500 quid. Anyway, so far, since I've had the car, financially it has been fine. It passed its MOT and I had a service done at the same time and I did that all for £150. So far, other than owning the car, I've spent a total of £650. If you're wondering about my insurance, there was a small fee of £20 to transfer my insurance over to the Punto. And I know my insurance will probably be quite hefty when it comes to next year, but just one of those things really.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
Now, when I say the word investment, I do mean it. I did need a car, and it's always good to have wheels. However, I actually feel like this has actually made me money. And I'm not saying I've bought it at a low price and I'm looking to sell it on or sell parts on, because I have no idea when it comes to that. However, what I'm getting at is the value that I've had for having it. My situation going into the pandemic, unfortunately, after having to leave sixth form and getting an apprenticeship that I did lose to the pandemic, I was managed to get more hours in my weekend job. However, I currently live 15 miles away, door to door from my workplace. Therefore, every time I needed to work, I always had to drive. Because of this drive, I wasn't allowed to do nearly as many hours as I possibly could, because staff that live potentially closer to the workplace would end up getting the overtime hours. I was given the offer to that if I did start driving, I would then be able to work more hours. After I initially passed my test in March, this did happen. However, for my first car, I paid just over £2,000 for, which at the time was quite a lot, and it was the majority of money that I had saved up. Fast forward to the accident, where I got back this money, I was then able to use the remaining £1,500 I got from my insurance and then invest it. Now already by this point I've managed to get back £1,500 out of something that I just used just as transport to get to work, and I've managed to put that aside to put into my trading account, which inevitably this would have been in June, so since June this has helped me build up my account to what it is right now. However, that's not the main reason as to why this is the best investment I've ever made. Because of this car, I have now managed to work a lot more than I previously did. Because previously I had to get lifts in all the time. My parents weren't that keen on doing it every day of the week, whereas now it's my responsibility to get into work, and it's allowed myself to go in as much as possible. By the small £500 cost of getting the car, it's then allowed me to work and get that back within even a week. If it wasn't for my car, I would have probably not been able to do any overtime like I've done for the past couple months, and I would have just stuck to my 12 hours a week contract. Now, if we're going to work out the exact return on investment of my car, we've first got to look at the money that I've made in overtime. Bear in mind I bought the car back in June, we'll go from this point. Roughly since this point, I've made around £12,000, of which £432 a month is my basic hours. If I times my contracted pay by the amount of months that I'm looking at here, it gives me a figure of £3,888. This is the amount of money I would make in 9 months with no overtime. So if we take the amount of money I've earned within these months since I've had the car and round it to £12,000, and we take away the cost of the car being £500, we then take away the cost of the MOT and the service being £150, and then we take away the amount of fuel I've spent, roughly £100 a month, so 100 for the 9 months being 900 quid, we're then left with £10,450. If we then take our £10,450 and then take away my basic hours, we would be then left with £6,582. The only amount of money I've spent on my car is buying the car in the first place, the MOT and the service. I've not done anything else to the car whatsoever. So if we take this profit of £6,562, it roughly works out to be just over 13 times the initial cost of the car. This would then equal a return of investment from buying the car of £500 to a 1,312.4%. And this is still of current. I don't want to talk things up, but the car is still running. So for the meantime, I'm literally just going to hold on to this car as long as possible and get the most out of it. I just believe in owning not the worst car, like it still needs to run, but there's no point in having a really fancy car, especially when you're young. Now is the time to put aside money for then when you're older, potentially you can splash out on having a nice car, but for now it's just not going to work out. Fair enough to you people that like your cars and you're into it, and then it's fair enough if you want to spend your money on it, but I'm definitely not one of those people, and I see it literally just as transport to getting to and from work, and if I had to choose between the cheapest option, then I'm going down that route. Also, another major thing is that because the cost of my car was only £500 initially to start with, it then allowed me to have a lot more money in other places. Essentially being able to invest more money and then getting money that way in the long run, rather than have my money tied up in a car. And as a lot of people know, cars very rarely appreciate in value unless it's really a classic car or a collectible. And therefore that's why I'm glad I only paid 500 quid, as even if I don't get my 500 quid back, I'm really not that bothered, as I've definitely made the most out of it since I've had it, and I haven't even had it a year. So my best advice to any of you lot that are thinking of getting a car, or currently have a car, or you're thinking of switching, or you just want it, or you're in your first couple of years driving, literally just go for the cheap and reliable. It might not look the best and have a massive stripe coming down it, and it's got tape on the back badge. However, it's just a set of wheels that is just reliable for you to then just get to and from work or wherever you need to be. Right now, especially at my age, I literally just need a vehicle to get from A to B. Even though I know I can afford a more expensive car, I feel like I don't need to. Maybe in the future I'll upgrade, who knows, but for the time being, I'm happy with my little rust bucket. Before I finish, I better say that I'm not a financial advisor and this is all for entertainment purposes only. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Again, like I said in my last video, I'm trying to upload more regularly. So if you're not already, sub to the channel to not miss out on future content. Again, my link is in the description for all my socials. Got my mate's socials on there as well for their channels I just started out, as well as my group account, The Bundle. If you want a free share worth up to £100, use my link in the description. With Trading 212, you'll get a free share as well as myself. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. In a bit.